what's
All
up.
right, so we're going to switch some gears here. All right.
Oh boy, this is about to get hot in here.
This week,
Man.
Jay-Z with Rock Nation and the NFL announced a partnership deal where he would be curating the halftime talent for the NFL and also the social justice initiative. There was some backlash from Eric Reed and everybody else involved. I'm going to start out with you, Vince.
Yikes. Okay.
I mean, because you've been pretty vocal this week.
Yeah. I have been.
How do you feel about this partnership? I want your full thoughts.
Okay, so first off, I think it's an awesome thing that this happened when it happened. And what I mean by that is, had we did this podcast the day after this news was made public, my commentary
It would be different.
would be very different than what it is right now.
Right.
Your stance is softened a little bit.
My stance is softened a little bit. I've had some time to think about it. My initial stance has always been that when we look back on this, this would be a great move, no matter what. It would be a good one because there's going to be some good that comes out of this for the African American community. And let's be real, that's the community who's been felt or touched most by this most recent move. It's pandering by the NFL. I don't think anybody on both sides can argue against that.
Oh yeah.
I can't make it.
But
Oh yeah.
The frustration is coming in, at least for me and a lot of other people that I've seen that agree with my position, is that Colin Kaepernick, when he started the protest, he started the conversation in regards to the systematic oppression that African Americans face in this country. And a sub conversation of that initial conversation was the NFL and how they relate to African Americans and other minorities.
Mm-hmm.
In the 3 years since, the NFL has made two moves. The most recent one with Jay-Z, and 2 years ago, they partnered, for lack of better words, with the Players Coalition, led by Malcolm Jenkins and at one point Eric Reed. They're making all of these moves in the name of social justice while ignoring the guy who started the movement. And that's where a lot of frustration is coming in at. I think with Jay-Z, I know that he's supposed to be majority owner of an NFL team. I know it's possible that he may bring Colin Kaepernick in. But I think the frustration is that he did not have the conversation with Colin. And he does not have to. He is not obligated to talk to Colin Kaepernick. But because of everything that has transpired in the last 3 years, I think if he gives him that gentleman's phone call, I don't think we're having this conversation the way that we're having it now. And I'll make one more point before I let Jamal go. For the last 2 years or so, most fans have been saying Colin Kaepernick will never play another NFL game. He will never play another down. He needs to give it up, focus on his activism, and congratulations on initiating the movement. And now with the new signing, that whole he's not going to play anymore has now turned into, well, what if Jay-Z brings him in? So how do you go from he's not going to play ever again to now he possibly may play?
Right.
In my opinion, that comes off as very dismissive, and it comes off to me that you really don't care about the movement. You just want your football.
Okay. What about you, Jamal?
You stole like 90% of my thunder, man. But
I got a lot more.
No. I'm going to make a statement, but of course, y'all let me explain my position. Here's my opening statement when it comes to this subject. Everyone involved in this is full of shit until Colin Kaepernick gets a job in the NFL. That's how I feel about this entire situation.
So let me ask you a question. So
now I will expound, but
okay,
yeah.
So this is my thinking. No, this is just my thinking. So the initial kneeling was to bring light to social justice issues faced by African Americans. It seems like some of this devolved into, okay, we're going to sit out until Colin Kaepernick gets a job.
Right.
And initially, to me, it feels like there was, okay, I'm doing this, but where was your end goal?
Right.
Like, what was your
end
plan?
game?
What was the end game in the plan?
Right.
So what do you think about that?
Speaking of that, because what I was getting to was the initial meeting with Jay-Z and Roger Goodell. God, I hate Roger Goodell.
We all do.
You know, Jay-Z was one of his statements was it's time to stop. And so many, I'm not quoting this exactly. We're past kneeling and it's time for action. However, Jay-Z never laid down a plan of action. Not to say he doesn't have one. We just didn't hear it in his initial statement. Jay-Z also mentioned Roger Goodell. This was not about me. He's saying if you think this is about me performing at halftime of Super Bowl, then you got the wrong idea. Mm-hmm. So Jay-Z, in so many words, said all the right things. It sounds good, but I say this a lot, man. Optics matter. Mm-hmm. Optics matter a lot. And so far, the optics are very bad on this. Because what we know is Colin Kaepernick was not contacted. What we do know is that we don't see a plan yet. And what we know is that there's rumors of Jay-Z having possible ownership in the NFL. Now, does this change if Jay-Z somehow owns a team and signs Colin Kaepernick? Is all forgiven? Possibly. But we don't know yet. Mm-hmm. So that's why I come to this conclusion. Because let me say this first. When this first came out, me personally, I was kind of all over the place. Yeah. I really didn't know what to think. I'm being honest. I really, because there wasn't enough information for me to come to a conclusion. But from what I do know, as I stand right now, everyone is full of shit until Colin Kaepernick gets a job.
Okay,
that's why I opened it up with that headline.
Rodney, the question that you just asked Jamal, if you can ask that question again.
So
it was something about, the people stopped watching football. What was that?
So it's like, okay, we were upset because the NFL basically blackballed Colin Kaepernick, which it's not a basically, they blackballed him because basically he stood up for the initiative of African Americans, basically their consistent disenfranchisement. So it's just to me, it kind of seems like, okay, what's the end goal? Are we sitting out because he doesn't have a job any longer, or is the NFL because, I mean, at the end of the day, the NFL is not. They don't make policies.
Yeah, and see that's one of the narratives that is being created in response to all of this. Colin Kaepernick's initial protest wasn't to challenge the NFL to go out and do more for African American communities. He was protesting the way that the government and this country and this society treats African Americans. We stopped watching the NFL because the NFL effectively blackballed Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was an end game because it was obviously an emotional response. Because I didn't watch it for that first season, and then I've slowly come back to it. And now that we're doing this podcast, I'm kind of obligated to kind of keep up with football now. So I'm actually constantly at conflict eternally because of it. But the people stopped watching football because the NFL said, "Hey, you know what? You're stirring the pot. You're messing up our money. We're gonna push you out." Gotcha. So it was more so an act of solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, and I think that's what makes this Jay-Z move so much more complex, because Jay-Z stood in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
I will not perform at the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then he went, then he had the song lyrics and the song ape shit that we're already in the Super Bowl and all that good stuff. And then you go back and you have a deal with the people who just blackballed your homeboy.
Who's going to make him a lot of money.
So let me ask you a question. So does Reed and Kaepernick taking, to me, kind of like some hush money? I mean, because to be honest with you, for the NFL to even offer them a settlement, shows that there was something that was bigger, and they didn't want it to be exposed. No,
and I think
that's just to me.
In my opinion, my bad, Jamal. No, in my opinion, the settlement money had nothing to do with the protest. The settlement money was, and officially this will never be the case, but effectively it was the NFL admitting that we blackballed you because of your protest, and we're gonna give this is the money that we're gonna give you for your lost earnings and all that good stuff.
But then also to me though, for them to acknowledge that we blackballed you and here's the money, there had to be some type of evidence. And for you to take that money, that means, okay, the evidence is not coming out.
And for the record, I didn't agree with them settling. Right. I didn't agree with it. So,
however, that's a lot of money to turn down. But anyway, but let me say this. Let me kind of paint the picture of how this looks from the NFL perspective and from Roger Goodell's perspective. Mm-hmm. This is just my belief. The picture that they paint to me is, hey guys, we got this real hip black hip hop artist that y'all love and respect to show you that we're doing something for black people in a community. Meanwhile, we want everybody to just not pay attention to what the real issue is and what Colin Kaepernick was really standing for. So we get it both ways. We got our black figurehead to kind of show that we care, quote unquote. Meanwhile, Colin Kaepernick still's not playing, still not stirring the pot. We got Eric Reed to shut up, so we're good. And that's how it looks. And to me, when people say it's chestnut checkers, so far, looks like Jay-Z's the one getting played and not really playing chestnut checkers. So, again, going back to this whole optics thing, the optics don't look good. And it looks like somebody's getting played and it's not Roger Goodell.
And then if Jay-Z is somehow, some way able to use his leverage to get Colin Kaepernick back in the league, we will still not get to the root of his protest, because those same people who just 2 months ago were saying that Colin Kaepernick will never play again, they will now be saying, hey, look, Colin Kaepernick is playing. Now you guys can shut the hell up.
Right. Now everything's cool now.
Everything's
Hey, you got Jay-Z rapping and putting all his input in the NFL. You got your guy back, so everything's cool.
So let me ask you a question. So I'm going to take it back. So say you guys are Roger Goodell, and this is 2016, and Colin Kaepernick is kneeling. What, in your opinion, what would have been the most ideal response to that, and what course of action would you have taken personally if you were in Roger Goodell in the NFL shoes?
Simply put, to focus on the why he's kneeling and not the action he's doing. Because the narrative was made that by him kneeling during the anthem, he was protesting, he was disrespecting the flag and those who served in the military. And that's not it. It's a narrative created to avoid having the actual conversation. So the proper response would have been Roger Goodell bringing him in. Hey, what is it that you want? And if they had some sort of pragmatic conversation, we're not even having this conversation right now. And it gets back to my earlier point. Even after the NFL have partnered with Jay-Z as well as the the Players Coalition, if they bring Kaepernick in right now for some sort of talk, we're not having this conversation.
Right. You know what people forget about Colin Kaepernick kneeling that first year? You know what people always forget? He actually played that year, y'all.
Yeah.
He actually played for the 49ers that year. And you know, the NFL didn't really bring too much attention to it, and I'm not going to say it was all good, but it wasn't the big controversy it was when he stopped playing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I hate to kind of piggyback off what Vince said, but you had to have a conversation. And specifically, if you wanted to make a big stick out of it and kind of bring it to the forefront of your audience, why not have this conversation on a televised event to show that you actually give a damn for once? Like hear Colin Kaepernick's point of view. Have a mediator. Have a real conversation instead of trying to shovel it to the side and hopefully it just goes away. That's just not the right way to handle it. But at the same time, from Roger Goodell's point of view, he's got to make these bigot owners happy. You get what I'm saying? Those owners are the ones that make him money. And he never tried to find the balance of trying to make them happy and also try to get to the root cause of why Colin Kaepernick was protesting.
Okay, so what do you say to people who say, let's keep politics out of sports?
It's unavoidable.
That's
you
bullshit.
Can't. You can't.
And it goes back to something that I said earlier. Like, okay, when people say let's keep politics out of sports, let's relate it to the Colin Kaepernick issue. he's advocating for the advancement of African Americans and other minorities who've been oppressed in this country. That's not politics.
That's what did you say last week?
It's humanity. Right. So when people say keep politics out of sports, they're basically saying that they don't want to talk about it.
Or they're saying you're not talking my politics, so it's invaluable to me. So let's keep what you have to say out of sports.
That could be it as well.
And then also
but people are hiding behind politics. Remember that whole conversation we had about gang mentality? It kind of relates to this. You get what I'm saying?
And then also politics are in sports are just intertwined.
They are.
And it's been happening from the beginning of sports, man.
And then so I hate to say this, but our owner is about to go talk to politicians about getting a brand new $2-3 billion arena,
which makes it even more unavoidable. So, anything you want to close with the Colin Kaepernick situation? Everybody's full of shit until Colin Kaepernick gets a job. The end.
I'm not gonna be as blunt as Jamal. The only thing I'll ask people on both sides. I know we all disagree, but I've seen a lot of people who have supported Jay-Z in this situation take a lot of shots at the others who haven't, and they've come up with all these ugly scenarios and these false parallels to kind of justify Jay-Z's actions. Stop.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
Because you're showing your ignorance. Because no matter what happens, everybody on both sides will have to eat crow in some type of way.
Because I have been pretty blunt, but at the same time, I also acknowledge that because there's so much we don't know yet.
Yeah.
We have to let everything.
So Jamal, so you gonna be a Jehovah's Witness?
We're gonna pass on that.
So
on that question.
And again, I'll end it with this. I'm glad that we're having this conversation days after, because if we did this immediately after,
you was unhinged.
Hey, but it is funny that you say that, because even then I was keeping a cap on how I really and how I truly feel.
Vince, I read you, man. I feel your chakras.
Oh man, moving on.